Well, hello, it's Friday, it's the weekend, it's Friday, it's the weekend. Well, welcome everyone to our Golf Town virtual golf clinic hosted by me, Lisa Blueswick, nicknamed Lisa Longball. I am so excited to be here because today is our question and answer video. So these are all the questions and anything that wasn't covered in my last 16 videos, as today is sadly the last video. Everyone's out golfing, so no one wants to be home in their basement working on golf because they can all be out at the golf course. So today I will cover everything and anything that people have asked that weren't covered in the first 16 videos. So let's get started. Today, our first question is going to be from Cindy from Windsor, Ontario. Cindy asks, the rough at my home course in Kingsville Golf Course is so dense due to all the rain here. How do I deal with it? That is a great question. That thick rough, that dense rough that we can all get in. All right, so as I was going through all these questions, of course, I made sure to touch base with my PGA of Canada golf professional, Paul Horton, national award-winning instructor. So he has been fantastic and has helped me answer all of these questions. So we make sure we give you great advice. And don't forget, I always recommend, please go see your PGA of Canada, LPGA, and PGA of America instructors for excellent golf instruction. That's how you're going to get better. So when I talked to Paul about the deep rough, these are some of the tips that Paul shared with me. So first thing you want to do in the deep rough, make sure you have enough loft. He said the biggest issue he sees with most golfers in the rough, they don't take enough loft. They try to get their hybrid or some 5-iron out of there because they know that they can hit the green from there. You know what? Check your ego at the door, take your lumps, and number one, get it out. So he said definitely take more loft. The next thing you want to do, you'll actually put the ball back a little bit in your stance. The less thick grass you have to go to, the better chance you have of getting this ball out. And he said the next thing you want to do is that thick grass often will close your club face. So when you're hitting, when that thick grass hits, it will close your club face and often, cause your ball to go off direction. So he said what you can do in the thick rough, he said you can actually open your club face a little bit. Now be careful. When you open your club face, so many golfers just do this to open their club face. That's terrible advice. What you want to do is you want to make sure you open your club face, but you have to re-grip it. If you simply turn your wrists when you go to make the shot, it's simply, your wrists are just going to simply flip over and it's going to be in the same position as it was before. That's not opening your club face. So when you open your club face, you open it first, then you grip it. That's how you know it'll be in that open position. So don't just turn your wrists. So again, make sure you have enough loft. You want to make sure you move the ball slightly back in your stance. He said, make sure that you're going to maybe open that club face a little bit as you come through the rough, and you've got to swing through it. You've got to swing through it. And he said, even you might need a sand wedge just to get out of there. So don't be going for the green because you could end up back in the rough. And again, your score is just going to skyrocket. So those are the tips to make sure to get out of that thick rough and make sure you use enough loft to get out. I'll never forget, I was playing Bethpage Black. And it was in June in New York, and it was humid, and I was in that thick rough, and I was like licking my chops because I thought, oh, I can get on this green in two. And you know what? I ended up taking my pitching wedge, getting it out of that thick rough, and then getting it onto the green. So again, make sure to get it out. That's point number one. I just want to say good morning and hello, I guess good afternoon, depending where you are in Canada. I see Suzanne Lemons has joined us. Hello. Jan, thanks so much for joining. Lori, I'm glad you need some fun and enthusiasm today. That's great. Lori Ann, thanks so much. So thrilled that the lessons have helped you. That's awesome to hear. I see Cheryl from Edmonton and Helen. Great tips. Thank you so much. Okay, so there's question number one. Let's get on to question number two. This is Trish from Newmarket, Ontario. How often should I change my grips? Is there a number of games before they start wearing out? Awesome question. First of all, when you should start changing your grips. You know when your grips start to get wear marks? If you look at your grip right now and there's wear marks where your thumb is and all the rest of that, time to change your grip. The next thing you need to do, I've grabbed some people's clubs, when they leave them on the green and you pick them up for your playing partners. Not right now. We're not doing that during social distancing though. Of course, don't help pick up your playing partner's clubs right now. But typically when we've done that, when I've passed them and their grips, my hand could almost slip off their grip. Can you imagine if you were playing with grips like that in the rain or in wet conditions? You have no possibility to be holding that club properly, which is just going to impact your game and your shot. So, number one, do you have any wear marks on your grip? And number two, if it's not tacky anymore and it's really slippery, it's time to change your grips. Now, my coach, Paul Horton, he works with a lot of professional golfers, and he said the pros are changing their grips typically once a month. Usually, he said about every 40 rounds. Now, for you, it depends on how much golf you play. You know, some people don't play 40 rounds in 4 years. So, again, that's important to note. But he also said that as time goes on, your grips actually get dry and can crack as well. So, if you want to get a little bit more life out of your grips, you could also make sure you're on a routine basis trying to wash them with just warm water and soap, just regular warm water and soap, and that'll get some of the sweat and some of the oils from your hands out of the grips, and that can help make them last a little bit longer. But this is the best investment. If you've ever had new grips, or you know that new club feeling, I'm telling you, it'll feel like a whole new set of clubs for you just getting new grips, and they're about $10 to $15 a grip. If you don't need them right now and you're kind of planning your grip changing time, Golf Town offers a re-grip event late January, February, every single year, and it's up to 40% off all grips. So that's a great time to get re-gripped if you're looking at to buy new grips. But again, great investment and awesome question. So thanks so much, Trish. Okay, question number 3. I'd like Lisa to share her tips and drills to square up the driver face to the tee. And then also I'd like to know how Lisa suggests novice golfers avoid bad advice. And this is EJ from Caledon East, Ontario. So great question. Let's start out with squaring up the driver. Now we've talked about, I talked about alignment. So you would want to go back to my April 9th video on the Golf Town Facebook page. So if you go to Golf Town Facebook, go back to April 9th, I do a whole thing on alignment that will really help you square up your club face. I talk about the importance of squaring up your club face. But if you're having trouble finding square, I talked to my coach Paul Horton, and he said what you're going to want to do is you can look for a tee marker. So when you're on the tee box, if you can see the tee markers, something flat, a straight edge. He said you're going to want to find kind of a straight edge so that you can kind of see what straight looks like. He also recommended just even at home, pull your driver out at home, find a straight edge at home with a mirror, and he said get used to seeing what does straight and what does square look like. And he said sometimes when people have that driver face closed, they think that's square. So he said just at home, just even practicing setting up against a straight edge. And again, you can even do that at the golf course, or he said one of the driving range mats is a great way because that has a nice square edge as well, just to get a sense of what square looks like. But definitely go back and watch the alignment tips from the April 9th video. That will help as well. And then part 2 of the question from EJ was, how does Lisa suggest novice golfers get rid of bad advice? Now, I addressed this a little bit, but I think it's important to talk about this again. I addressed it in a previous video. How do we get rid of bad advice? First of all, stop taking it. Stop taking advice from golfers on the golf course. It makes me so mad when your playing partners start giving you tips on the golf course, especially if you just met them on the first tee box. So, 2 little ideas for you. Once my husband and I were playing golf, and this guy kept giving me tips. He told me I was lifting my head. If you've watched any of my videos, you know when someone says to you, oh, you lifted your head. That's terrible advice. Terrible advice. So, what can you do? And this guy was on me the whole round. Anyway, I was trying to be polite, so I didn't say anything. And then so my husband said to this guy, hey, Bob, what was it you said you did for a living? He's like, oh, I'm a geologist. And my husband said, let's keep it that way, which means you're not a golf pro, so stop giving advice. So we need to shut it down. As soon as someone starts giving you advice, and you're right, typically it's bad advice, on the golf course, we need to shut it down, okay? Super important. So another way that we can shut it down, and a great way that's a little bit more polite as well too, is when someone starts giving you advice, immediately you need to say to them, oh, actually, I have a swing coach and we're working on a few things. Now, even if you don't have a swing coach, that's okay. You'll be getting a swing coach soon, or I'll be your swing coach in the meantime until you get that PGA of Canada instructor. But you can just say, actually, I'm working with a swing coach and we're working on a few things. So right away, you have to stop your playing partners from giving you advice. Even if it's your spouse, that's the divorce open, right? So no more advice there. That was a great question. Okay, let's go to our next question here. How does someone get into long drive if they are interested? What kind of qualifications do you need to have? Marissa from Winnipeg. That's a great question too. Okay, so the sport of long drive. Oh man, I love it. One of the ways that you can get involved in long drive, so on an international scale, is the World Long Drive Association, and that's run by the Golf Channel. So if you go to worldlongdrive.com and you go to the About section and you want to learn more about how to get in and how to get involved. So how to get involved, there's a little section there. Click on that and it gives you all the advice for our 3 divisions, which will be the women's division, the men's division, and the masters division, which is 45 years and plus. So again, all those tips are there. Now, if you are in Canada and you're looking for other events as well, there's also the ildclongdrive.com website. So www.ildclongdrive.com, and you will find information about events in Canada. Now, unfortunately, there's not a ton of events right now, but there's like a Bash for Cash event that you can come join. And I think that's only for men and masters right now. But if there was enough interest, I'm sure they'd have a women's division too. And also the Canadian National Championships are run through that as well. So if you're interested, you can look there. As for qualifications, I would say as a woman, you need to be hitting at the national level at least about 280 yards. That would be helpful and you'd put you in a competitive category. At the world long drive level for women, you have to probably be at least 3 bills. So you need to be hitting at 300 yards. For the men's divisions, oh, geez Louise, the senior men's, or the Masters event is what it's called now, the Masters and the Open division, gosh, we've had it when we could literally have had the Masters division champion win the Open division. That's how Eddie Fernandez, absolutely spectacular. He's our reigning men's world long drive champion in the Masters division. He also competes in the Open division. So for the men, I think you're looking at about at least 350 yards to even start to sniff to be competitive. And our men have hit at 380, 390 and over 400. So you definitely have to be up there in the 300s, upper 300s to be competitive on the men's scale. But if you ever have any questions, reach out to me. My website's lisalongball.com. I can definitely help you with any advice to get into the sport of long drive, anyone who's interested. Okay, just want to say hello to Lynn. Love that you're enjoying the advice. Thank you so much. Oh, the Divorce Open, that's good, right? And Helen, thanks so much. Your favorite ball on the golf course. Well, for me, I'm Callaway. Callaway Chrome Soft is my ball of choice. That's the one that I love to use. Feels great around the green, and I can smash it off the tee as well. Great question. And Diane from Ottawa, go long. Thanks so much, Diane. And Diane has actually come to the World Long Drive Championship, so she's someone to ask about what it's like to go see an event live and in person. All right, let's get to our next question here. I tend to hit my ball off the toe of the club, mostly my 7-iron. Any suggestions? Robert in Ontario. Well, Robert, you're not the only one. And so what Robert's talking about is he said he's been hitting it off the toe of the club a little bit, especially with the 7-iron. So when I talked to my PGA of Canada coach, Paul Horton, I'm like, what do you think's causing it? And he said, typically, if you're hitting it off the toe, what's happened is you're probably coming out of your posture. So he said, as you come out of your posture, what happens is that your club comes closer to your body. And as your club comes closer to the body, that's when the toe of the club can start impacting the ball. So he said, typically, it's you come out of your posture. Remember, as I've said in my posture video, it has nothing to do with lifting your head. You've lifted your torso. Probably lifted your torso, maybe straightened your legs, but probably lifted your torso. So if you have a lot of shots off the toe, then you're going to definitely want to see. And if you're not sure, hold on. If you're not sure if you have shots off the toe, I'm still here. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I think my spray. I'm just grabbing my spray here. I just kind of came up with this on the last second. If you're not sure if you're hitting off the toe, remember I told you to go buy a can of foot spray. And that what you could always do, just let me make sure that this sucker's on, give it a little shake and give a spray. Oh, sorry, I think I locked it there. Sorry about that. Oh, there it is. You can do a little spray on your club face, and then you go ahead and hit the ball, and it'll show you where the impact mark is. So if you're not sure if you're hitting it off the toe, get a can of foot spray and see if you're hitting it off the toe. So some of the drills that my coach Paul said to stop hitting it off the toe, he said you need to try to make sure to stay in that posture. He's a big fan of the orange whip. We talked about this in one of the building ball speed video that we've already done on Golf Town here. So he said the orange whip, which again you can buy this on the Golf Town website, or also now that all the stores are open, you can head in store to buy one of these. He's a big fan of this for tempo and again with those miss hits. So he said what you want to do with the orange whip, he said you want to start swinging the orange whip. He said start slowly to begin, and as you start getting more comfortable, start getting more speed and more speed and more speed. What he said he wants you to do is to feel the club head. He said the orange whip helps you feel the club head because that will help you stay in posture so that you're not lifting and then hitting off that toe. He said another thing that you can do in addition to, or if you don't have an orange whip trainer, he said you can just get a regular iron. He said start with your regular iron. You're going to make a full swing to finish. Once you're at finish, pause, and then he wants you swinging again. So again, start your golf swing, get to the finish, then make another swing to the finish, and then do a few in a row. And he said that by doing this, that will force you to kind of feel the club head, and don't forget you want to try to brush the grass while you're doing that. So when I say brush the grass, Every single time, if you want good contact with all your clubs, you've got to brush what the ball is sitting on. So if you're hitting your irons, you've got to brush the grass. So while you're doing that drill, for you to brush the grass, you physically cannot brush the grass if you lift that torso. So again, he said those are some great drills that hopefully will help you stop hitting it off the toe there. So hope that's helpful. All right, let's keep on trucking here. Let's go to our next question. I can't get enough loft off the tee on my drive. What loft do you suggest on a driver for me? And this is Marilyn from Perth, Ontario. All right, this is a great question as well. I chatted with my coach Paul Horton, and he said, if she's struggling getting loft, if she can't get it high enough off the tee with her driver, most drivers are at least 10 to 12 degrees. Many manufacturers also make 14 and 16 degree drivers, especially for women. And junior drivers, some of those drivers are 27 degrees. Again, all to help you get up. But if you're struggling getting loft with your driver, he thinks one of the things that you may be doing, he thinks that you may be closing your club face. So as you're setting up at the ball, he thinks that maybe you're closing that club face. Either at address or as you swing, that club face closes. And when that club face closes, it de-lofts your driver. So your 12 degree driver is now like a 6 degree driver. And so that could be why you're not getting enough loft. Now, he said, if she knows that her club face is straight and she knows she's not closing it, if she's not closing it, she has a straight club face and she can't get any loft, he said the issue is probably club head speed. You don't have enough club head speed because you need club head speed to launch the ball. So if you're struggling with your club head speed, go back to my earlier videos that we did starting March 31st on the Golf Town Facebook page. You definitely want to look at posture. That's the first video that's going to help you a ton. Posture, then brush the grass. And the two biggies are you want to watch my 2 videos about stopping the slice and stopping the pull. Those I talk about turn the shirt, turn the pants. I talk about how do we create coil and torque, how do we stop just lifting our arms, and that we start turning. If you watch some of those videos, that will really help you get that club head speed up so that you can start launching the ball. I was absolutely thrilled when I had Don from Prince Edward Island reached out to me. It was actually Terry from the Links at Crowbush Cove that connected us, and he told me he's gained 30 to 40 yards off his driver using those tips from the video. So definitely check those out because I think that's going to help you get enough or more speed to help launch that driver, all right? And I just want to do a shout out. I see, good morning, Kim. Thanks so much, Kim. Lewis, glad you're enjoying the stuff. Michelle, you are so welcome. I'm thrilled to hear the videos are helping you. And Raymond, oh, he tried to give you advice. Raymond had a guy trying to give him advice the whole round, and he was no better than Raymond. Thanks a lot, buddy. We get that all the time, right, Raymond? It drives me crazy. It's like you don't go into a dentist's office and start giving advice to people, right? So why do they come onto the golf course and start giving you advice? So you don't try to teach someone, a dentist, how to do a root canal. Golfers should stop teaching you how to play golf unless they're a PGA of Canada pro, right? All right, let's get to our next one here. This is number 7. I have been playing golf for a while now, but always been struggling with my drives and irons. My driver barely goes anywhere distance-wise, as well as my irons. Lately, I've been topping my drives for some reason. Any assistance would be appreciated. I also have a strange feeling in my backswing, as if the grip moves or weakens, which causes me to duff a lot of shots. Nadine from Toronto. Okay, these are great questions. Now, that's a big struggle for a lot of people. So as you just heard me mention, go watch those beginning videos, especially, as I said, the posture, the stopping the slice, the pull, because I'm talking a bunch of tips that will help you gain distance. But you talked about something that's really important, and that was your grip. And a lot of golfers feel this. They get to the top of the backswing, and that grip almost feels like it's moving in their hand. If that's up there, my coach Paul said that absolutely that could impact your distance with your irons and your driver, especially if it feels like it's moving in your hands. So his suggestion, he said you need to make sure you get it more under the heel pad on your hand. And a lot of people who have that iron moving in their backhand, or in their backswing, should I say, usually sometimes that club can be in the middle of their hand versus off the heel pad and not in the fingers. So number 1, he said heel pad. So to know heel pad, everyone should be able to, you should be able to put the grip under your heel pad, just hold 1 or 2 fingers, and you should be able to hold your grip up like this, or hold your club up like this. That's where that club should be, under your heel pad. The next place it would be then is also in your fingers, and not enough people do this. So I gave that great tip in our grip video. So again, you can go back on the Golf Town Facebook page to see the grip video. I believe that was my first video, March 31st. And what you can do is do the suitcase drill. So you're going to stand up nice and tall, just arms beside you. You're going to make sure the butt end of the club is over your hand. Remember, all those people that have those wear marks and holes in their glove, often that butt end gets stuck in their glove there. We want to have at least that butt end, the cap of the grip over the back of the glove. So you want to have that there. Then you're going to hold the grip as if you're holding the handle of a briefcase or suitcase. I want you to bend your knees like you're picking up a briefcase or suitcase, and that will put the grip of the club in the base of your fingers, which is where it should be. So that grip drill, you could do that every single time right before you swing to get that feeling, and then that will automatically also put it under your heel pad. Okay, so that's a great suggestion there. And then my coach also said, if you're struggling that much there, also go see your PGA of Canada pro. He said they'll be able to tell you right away where some of those big issues are. So hopefully that's helpful as well. All right. Let's go to, first of all, thank you so much to share all your secrets with us during your difficult time. Can you please let us know how to build our confidence? I get nervous to play with new people and when they have comments that are affecting my game. Thank you, Manon from Ottawa. So that is so wonderful. So first, thank you so much for your kind comments, Manon. And then how do we get with that confidence and build that confidence? Well, you just heard my tip about, you're right, these people think that they can just start giving advice. As Raymond said, they just start giving you tips and they don't know much more themselves. So number one, you've got to shut that down. And we talked about that earlier. Number two, a pre-shot routine. So if you go to my April 9th video on the Golf Town Facebook page, I talk about getting rid of first tee jitters. And getting rid of the first tee jitters is having a pre-shot routine. Because what happens is by having a pre-shot routine, you get so into your routine, you start to forget about all the people that are watching. And here's the other thing you need to know. Most golfers, they don't really care about what you're doing on the course. They care about what they're doing. These are the rules. As long as you are fun, fast, and know the rules and etiquette, most people don't care. They just want to get out there and they're worried more about their shot than they are about yours. So don't get too stressed about it. And the other thing is breathe. So right for me, the last thing I do right before I make a golf swing, I take a deep breath out. And that relaxes all the tension from my arms and my hands, and that helps me hit better shots, even if I'm nervous. So at the World Long Drive Championships, last thing I do, and that helps me stay relaxed. So if you're someone who gets nervous, make sure you have a pre-shot routine. Take that deep breath out. Don't worry about the people around you because, you know, they're probably not even that worried about themselves. And when you step up to that ball, have some confidence. I want you to get up to that ball and go, I'm gonna show off to these people. Not, oh no, what if I cold top it? What if I slice it? What if I hit it into the woods? No. You're going to get up there and go, look at me, boys. Watch what I got here, right? So that's what you got to do is step up there, have some confidence, breathe, and making sure you have that pre-shot routine. And again, shut down those naysayers, right? Okay, next question. Love your clinic. Wondering how should you set up for an uphill chip on the side of a green? This is Roger from New Brunswick. Well, thanks, Roger. Great. I really appreciate all the kind comments. So he wants to know setting up for that uphill chip on the side of a green. So that's when you don't have a flat chip, you got that uphill chip. So a few things you want to do when you have that uphill chip. All right, hold on. Let me grab my wedge here. So when you have that uphill chip, I talked to my PGA Canada coach, Paul Horton, just to make sure we had everything all set up here. And what Paul recommends with the uphill chip, first thing you want to do is make sure you want to match your shoulders. You want to match your shoulders to the slope of the hill. Now, we talked about this in my hill video a couple weeks ago. So a lot of people make the mistake when they're on a hill that they keep their shoulders nice and square and they square up on the hill. Big mistake. That sounds like Julia Roberts, right? In Pretty Woman. Big mistake. Big mistake. Don't do that. You don't want to have, so you don't want square shoulders. You want to match the slope of the hill. So if the slope of the hill is this way, you're going to match that slope of the hill. Now, Roger's talking uphill chip, but if you have the downhill chip, again, you want to match the slope of the hill. So uphill chip, match your shoulders with the slope of the hill. That's number one. Paul then said to move the ball slightly forward in your stance. You're going to move it slightly forward in your stance. He said with the chipping, you still want to have all your weight on the front side. Remember from my chipping class, I talk about the flamingo, and I've had tremendous feedback. So happy to hear all the people who are chipping in and chipping it close, getting up and down with the flamingo. They're loving the flamingo. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch the chipping video that I did earlier. But so Paul said, put the ball up in the stance. You want to match the slightly forward in your stance. Match your shoulders to the slope of the hill. Put that weight on the front side. Put that weight on the front side. And then he said what's going to happen is that uphill chip is going to go quite high because the slope is going to add extra loft. So my coach said, make sure you actually take a little less loft on your club. So normally, let's say that you'd be chipping on that uphill lie with, let's call it a sand wedge. You might want to take a pitching wedge or a 9-iron because the slope of the hill is going to add extra loft, which means it's going to go high and stop short. And you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure it kind of goes up and still releases a bit depending on how far your flag is. So again, that uphill chip, match your shoulders, put the ball slightly up in your stance. He said make sure that you take a little less loft because the slope is already going to add loft. And again, you want to make sure you're brushing that grass, really making sure you're brushing that grass, and at least the same distance back as through. At least same distance back as through. And hopefully you'll be draining those chips, Roger. Perfect. Thank you. All right, next one. Let's look at our next one. Swing tempo with irons. I find I swing with my irons much too fast and have not discovered the best tempo to use. Your Ernie L's tip works well with me from a driver in fairway woods, but not with the irons. Tom from Mississauga. Well, thank you, Tom. I'm thrilled to hear you love the Ernie L's tip. So any of you golfers out there, if you missed my driver lesson, and that was at the very end of April, my last lesson in April, I talk about Ernie L's. And the Ernie L's tip is I want you to be a slow, patient backswing. Because what gives us distance in our swing is that we need to create coil and torque. So if you rush your coil and torque on the way back, you're robbing yourself of some distance. So slow, patient backswing. So I like to see 2 beats in the backswing, 1 in the downswing. So the swing thought, Ernie L's, is 2 beats in the backswing, knee, and then 1 in the downswing. L's. So again, you wanted to have that slow, patient backswing. But as Tom mentioned, he said that that's working for his fairway woods and for his driver, but not for irons. So again, I asked my coach, Paul Horton, what if you want proper tempo in the irons, what can you recommend? And he said, for proper tempo, if you're struggling with the iron side, number 1, he said, I want you to have the swing thought of longer backswing than you normally would have with your irons and longer follow through. So think longer backswing, longer follow through. And a great swing thought for that is I just like slow, patient backswing. But again, slow and patient. And then as Paul said, let it go as far as it can. Think longer in your backswing and in your follow through. That was his first tip. His second tip for tempo, if you're struggling with tempo with your irons, he wants you to grab 2 irons. He said, go ahead. He said, grab 2 irons and you're going to swing 2 irons in a row. He said, this is going to help you just get a good sense and feel of your swing and of where the clubs are at. And he said, it'll help your tempo. So he said, take 2 clubs and just start swinging. Just swing 2 clubs and they're going to be a little heavier. So swing 2 clubs back and forth a little bit. And you can do it a little slower or a little faster, do some multiple ones in a row. He said that's great to get the 2 clubs swinging. And then he's a big fan of making sure that you do the drill where you do a swing, hold your finish, and then from finish, go back and through, and back and through without setting up again. So he said getting all the way through and then coming back and through. He said by holding your finish and then coming all the way back and through back to finish, he said it's going to help your tempo with your irons. So hopefully if you're struggling with your tempo with your irons, again, think longer backswing, longer follow through, swing with 2 clubs, and then also do the drill where you're swinging all the way to finish and then swinging repeatedly, swing after swing from your finish, not from your setup, okay? All right, I just want to say hello, Susan. Thrilled you're loving the videos. And Diane, en français, bonjour, merci, I appreciate all your kind words. And Laura, thrilled that you're loving the videos as well. And Mark's tagging people. Thanks for tagging people. If you know golfers that would enjoy these videos, tag them in the comments right now so that they can see them. Or if you know a golfer who's doing some of these things, right? Okay, let's look at our next question here. Hi Lisa, I'm looking for some direction regarding putting. I'm wondering what your opinion is on tracking number of putts per hole. Should you track just 3 putts per hole? Ugh. I did it for a while but found it frustrating. Do you think I should track putts? How much analyzing should I do once I start striking the ball quite consistently, but I still want to improve? Thanks, Lisa, for all your great videos. And that's from Lynn. So Lynn, that's a great question. And I talked again to my coach, Paul, and he said, absolutely track your putts. Every golfer, whether you're brand new or a single-digit handicap, track your putts. Why? That's the easiest and fastest thing we can do to improve our golf swing. So by knowing how many putts you have, you can improve that immediately. So for 18 holes, you're supposed to, by pro standards, have 2 putts per hole for 36 putts in a round. That would be a great round, right? If you had 2 putts per round. He said the pros, professional tour players, LPGA, PGA Tour, average 28 to 29 putts a round, and the tour winners are averaging about 25 putts a round. That's 100 putts in 4 rounds of competitive golf. Absolutely crazy, right? So he said that's something that's really important, and he only counts the putt, of course, if it's on the putting surface. So if you putt from the apron of the green or off the green, he said don't count that. Only if you're on the green using your putter. And again, he said really quickly you'll start to see patterns. And he said, don't just track your putts. He said, absolutely, it's not overanalyzing. Just to have a quickly little spot on your scorecard. He said, mark fairways hit. How many fairways are you hitting around? That's an interesting stat that you might not even realize. And that when you're sitting at the 19th hole with a cold beverage, take a peek over it and see, you know what? Every time I pull out my driver, I'm missing the fairway, or I'm missing the fairway a few, 10 times around, but still scrambling to make your good score. So he said you can track that. He's a big fan of tracking greens and regulation. Now that, remember, is not for my good golfers. I mean, not for my beginner golfers, should I say. Remember, a par 72, a par 3, a par 4, and a par 5, that's for the pros. If you're a brand new golfer, a par 3 isn't a par 3 for you. It's probably a par 6. So because you're just new and you're just getting started. So again, that's for as you're getting better and you're getting towards that single digit and you're really trying to drop your score, then you're going to want to start tracking greens and regulation. So my coach Paul Horton said absolutely. He even has his students track ups and downs. So again, that tells you just he loves the tracking. Don't get too wrapped up in it, but just make a quick note on your scorecard, have a little spot and just a little check mark, something really easy there. So he's a big fan of that. All right, it says, when Lisa talks about brushing the grass on the practice swing, does that include fairway woods and driver? And that's from Betty. Betty, absolutely. You always want to brush whatever the ball is sitting on. So if the ball is sitting on the grass with your fairway wood, you better, if you don't brush your grass with a fairway wood, I guarantee you are not going to have a good golf shot. And when that ball is on the ball is on the tee, you want to brush the tee. So you still should be having a little bit of grass brush as well, even with driver. So you want to brush what the ball is sitting on. And again, if it's in a greenside bunker, which we'll talk about later, you better brush that grass. Brush that sand, or otherwise as that ball is shooting out of the green. And so what we mean by brush the grass, you want to hear that thump. So when you make your swing, your practice swing, we're looking for this. We want to hear that thump. You got to brush the grass. So absolutely with your fairway woods and driver. Great question. Okay, trucking along here. Lisa, how did you get into long drive and what's your longest drive ever? I hope you win the world title soon. All the best. Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. And that's from Evan. So to answer that question first, my longest driving competition is 350 yards, 2 feet, 2 inches. I was the first woman to ever hit it over 3.5 NFL football fields in competition, which was pretty darn exciting. And that was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that was so thrilling. And as for how did I get into long drive? Funny story. My husband kind of, as I mentioned, dragged me into the sport of golf and he brought me out and I started enjoying it. And then after I was at an LPGA event here in Calgary, I was so inspired to play. So I went to my first golf competition and it was like for like the Alberta Mid Handicap. Handicap's like, I don't know, 25 plus, 30 plus, that kind of thing. And I came 3/4 of the way through the pack, but I was hitting it 80 to 100 yards past all the other girls. And I always played with men, and I hit it about as far as they did, so I never realized I was long until I started playing with women. So I saw an advertisement for a long drive competition, and I entered, and I won with a 313-yard drive. And it was crazy. And then I ended up winning my first national title in 2001 at Glen Abbey in Toronto and came top 10 in the world all in 1 year. So I think for me, I credit my background as a gymnast. I was a former nationally ranked trampoline and tumbler, actually. So I believe that was my background. Balance, flexibility, explosive strength, and speed. And that's how I got into the sport of long drive. So Evan, thanks for asking that. Evan also asks, have you played Cabot Links or Cabot Cliffs before? I worked there for 3 seasons as a caddy and loved it. It's one of the most special places in Canada for golf, in my opinion. Well, Evan, I have been. I am a huge fan of the Maritimes in general and love Nova Scotia. And I agree with you. Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs is a special place. Cabot Cliffs it debuted to top 100 in the world. It is now a top 100 in the world golf course, and it debuted to that. That's how special it is. So Cabot Links, when I went to play there, I got to stay at the hotel there, and the hotels have this beautiful view of all the fairways, and you look out into the ocean. It's gorgeous in the fairways. And then on each of the doors, there's a quote from like Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer or Sam Snead, which is just so cool. So you could just tell it's a place that's revered for golf. And when you walk out there, you truly feel like you're walking in Scotland or Ireland. To me, it's some of the most authentic links-style golf this side of the pond. So if you ever get a chance, anyone, put that on your bucket list. Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs in Nova Scotia, absolutely outstanding in Cape Breton. All right, next question. I need a little help clearing water hazards. Examples, dams or gullies when you can't avoid or go around. Any tips? Norma. Great question. We have all been there. We have that big dam or that big gully, something that we have a huge carryover. Number one, this is the number one thing I see, and my best tip to you. You know what I see when people have that big body of water or gully or canyon? You know what they do? They go into their bag and they pull out the biggest garbage ball they can find in their bag. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you pull out your garbage ball, you're already telling yourself you're going to hit it into the canyon or the water. I want you to pull out your brand new spanking, most expensive ball in your bag, baby. You find the newest and most expensive ball in your bag and you put that down there. Why? Because you should have the confidence that this sucker's getting over, or at least you don't want to lose the money for it to go into the canyon, so you're gonna hit it over. So again, it's confidence. Don't pull out that garbage ball. That's number one. And then of course, when I talked to my PGA of Canada coach, Paul Horton, for some more tips, he said to me, the biggest issue when people do that, first of all, absolutely negative thought. If you're thinking, oh, don't go in the canyon, don't go in the canyon, your swing thought is you're going in the canyon. He said your swing thought should be, oh, go get over that canyon. Hit the best shot you've ever hit. He said, put a positive swing thought in your head right before you swing, not, oh, don't go in the canyon. Positive swing thought. Next thing he said, when people have something big they have to get over in a big carry, he said what happens is it's a loft issue. He said, so people are trying to help it up in the air. So what he sees from these people is people are trying to scoop it up. They're trying to scoop it up and help it in the air. And when they do that, what happens? They leave weight on their back foot. What happens when you leave weight on your back foot? Typically you cold top it, you duff it, you hit a worm burner, which is going to go straight into the canyon or body of water or dam or whatever you're looking at. So again, worst thing you can do is try to help it up in the air. That's going to work the opposite. And you'll leave weight on the back foot. He said to get that loft, he said you have to finish your golf swing. And I've talked about that. Finish your golf swing, finish your golf swing, finish your golf swing. So he said if you want to get it over, no weight on the back foot, you've got to brush that grass and get through to that front side. You have to finish your golf swing. So he said, make sure you brush that grass and finish your golf swing, accelerate through the ball. And he said that will give you lots of loft. And of course, take more club than you think. If you think you need an 8-iron, take a 7-iron just to make sure that you're getting it over, okay? All right, I also do want to see Ryan. Why do I always hit the heel of the face on my driver? So again, if you're hitting the heel on the face of the driver, you could be standing too close to it. I talked a little bit earlier in my video about getting that the spray. Spray your driver face to see where that's going. But if it's consistently off the heel, you could be setting up too close to the ball already. But what's happening is, as you said, you're somehow coming. If it's starting in the center of your face, if you know it's not there, you're somehow coming into the heel. You're off balance there. So there's something in your swing that's pulling you into that heel, to the heel of the club. So really work on your balance and your posture, and use that spray to see where you're really impacting it. And Brent, I'm going to need a bigger bucket. I love it. I love it. Oh, for the bucket list. I love it. Okay, let's go to our next question. Hi, Lisa. I was wondering, where do you love to play and who is a female pro do you look up to? And that's Chloe. And I think Chloe Raymond is right there on the video. So perfect timing. So for me, where do I love to play? First of all, I love to play golf in Canada. I have to tell you, Canada has some of the most beautiful golf courses in all the world. My home course, Heritage Point, is a big favorite of mine, 27 holes. I'm a fan of playing different golf. So there's one 9 that's like a desert 9, so it's kind of cool and it's kind of a bomber's paradise. And then there's a point in a Heritage, and I love elevation changes as well. So big fan of elevation changes, and I get that all there, which is cool. I love Grey Wolf Golf Course in British Columbia. Absolutely, it's out in Panorama there. Absolutely outstanding. Cliffhanger, but that par 3 is one of the favorite I've ever played. I'm a huge fan of the Maritimes. So Prince Edward Island, if you've been out, Links at Crobush Cove, Brudenell, Dunderave, all spectacular golf and lobsters galore. And again, of course, we talked about Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs. But I would say those are some of my favorite golf courses. I love mountain golf too. So for me, being from Alberta, I love Banff Springs Golf Course, Stewart Creek, Silvertip. I love those beautiful mountain views, and it looks like your ball when you're, seeming like a mile high, and it just goes forever. So those are some of my favorite courses. As for a female pro I look up to, it has to be Annika Sorenstam. I feel that Annika Sorenstam is the best female player that has ever played the game, in my opinion. And not only even though she no longer competes, she's continually and constantly giving back to the game. If you follow Annika Sorenstam on social media right now, Twitter, Instagram, she is so active. She's a huge proponent of girls golf, women's golf, trying to bring more junior girls into the game, which is just awesome. She's constantly giving back to charity. And what I love seeing is she's a mom. She's a mom of 2 young children, a boy and a girl, and her husband, Mike McGee. They are such family, and their family golfs together and plays tennis together. And to me, Annika is someone to look up to and someone to revere. Do I seriously have a phone call going on in the middle of my video? That's right. Hopefully that will end pretty quick. So sorry about that. There's a virtual fail right there. But great question, Annika Sorenstam. She's Hall of Fame and everything that I look up to in golf. So thank you so much. All right, our next question here. Are there tips for chipping out of the long rough beside the green? So we talked about rough on the golf course already. That was our first question. But what about long rough beside the green beside the green? I either scull it or it goes a foot. I loved all the tips this spring from Tracy. So Tracy, thanks so much. Thrilled that you're loving all the tips here. So if you've got long rough around the green and you're trying to chip, what do? Well, I went to my PGA of Canada coach, Paul Horton, and said, Paul, what do? So first thing he said, make sure you have tons of loft. So he said that's really important, is again, make sure you have a very lofted club. So again, that could be a 60-degree wedge, sand wedge, something with lots of loft. He said that's number one. He said number two that you want to do when you have that lots of that rough when you're chipping in through that from that thick rough around the green, is he said that you want to make sure that you put the ball back slightly in your stance, but a little less grass again to go through. He said really importantly, he said you need to have a bit of a steeper swing. So normally when we're chipping, I'm not a fan of being too wristy. He said you're going to need to hinge your wrists a little bit. So if you have that deep rough around the green, he said he wants to see you hinge your wrists a little bit. He said it's going to be more of a V-like swing versus a U-like swing. So normally in golf you'd have a U-like swing. He wants it to be more of a V-like swing. So he wants it to be a little sharper, steeper angle, create that V. And he said the worst thing that what he sees, he says when he sees people, especially in that long rough around the green, he said it's too long of a backswing and too short of a follow through. He says way too long of a backswing, way too short of a follow through. He said you want to go at least as far back as you do through, so you've got to go through, so don't take as big of a backswing. We're going to have more hinge, but you can't stop at the ball. He said that's the worst thing you can do, and that's when you stub at that foot. He said you've got to make sure you brush that grass, and swing through it a little bit. You've got to get through it, but you're going to be a little steeper. So practice that a little bit, get more loft. Again, could be a lob wedge or a sand wedge. You're going to have a steeper swing, so you're going to hinge your wrist, try to make that V-like swing, and don't take too long of a backswing, and make sure you're going at least as far through. You've got to get through that grass, so you've got to brush that grass. So he said that's really, really important. Okay, next question here. What should I look for in a golf league? Tom from Ottawa. Great question, Tom. I'm a huge fan of golf leagues. Why? Because as busy people, what do? You know who we cancel on? We'll cancel on us. We'll cancel on ourselves, but we won't cancel if someone else is relying on us or looking forward for us to coming to be part of their foursome. So a golf league, I feel, forces you to get out there and get golfing and put all those excuses aside and do something for you. So I'm a big fan of the golf league. So what you look for in a golf league, number one, you have to know what kind of a league you want. I see this more in the women's leagues. Some women's leagues are like super fun and they like dress up and then like use 3 clubs for this, and that's awesome. And there's women that love it and they have so much fun. Cool, that's the league for you. But if you're a serious golfer and you're about score and that's more important to you, you need to find a league that doesn't have the dress up days and doesn't do that. You need to find a more serious league. So again, sometimes there's business ladies leagues and evening leagues. And for the men's leagues, I find the men's leagues to be a little bit more serious, and there'll even be deuce pots and some skins games and all the rest of that. So that's great if that's what you're into and what you like. What else I would look for in a golf league is, of course, do the times work for you? So what times of the week? Is it something that you can consistently manage, whether it's Tuesday nights, Saturday mornings, whatever it may be? Find a league that really works with your times, that you know you can make as many as possible. The other thing is find at least one person to join with you. So when you're joining a league, see if you can have one friend or golf buddy that'll join with you, so that you know the two of you can be accountability partners. You'll kind of set up the tee times and force each other to go and get out there. The other thing with the golf league, find out, do you get to play with different people? Some people love playing with different people and having competition. That's awesome. Some people want to play with their same foursome every week. So again, when you're looking at your golf leagues, see how it's set up and see how they want you to do it. And also, golf courses are awesome. Give them feedback. If you give feedback to the golf courses and they have enough golfers that want something, the golf courses, the PGA of Canada pros, will make sure that happens for you. But again, those are some of the things that I would look for in a good league. And if prizing is important for you, see if there's prizing. Or if you don't want to be paying weekly, make sure there's a golf league that you're not paying weekly to, again, certain deuce pots and all the rest of that. So find one that works for you, but I'm a huge fan of joining a golf league. That's a great point. Terry, thanks so much. See that you've joined us. And Robert Scirocco, I love Scirocco. That's a beast. That's a good course, but man, you better be straight and narrow because you don't want to be in the rough. I love Scirocco. And Kevin, wonderful. Kevin, I've been to the UK, Scotland, Ireland, some of the best golf. I've had such fun playing in the UK. And guess what? My 60-degree wedge stayed in the bag. Bump and run when I was in the UK. All right, next one. I have for any tips for helping me keep score, Greg. So Greg, what I think you're asking for here is maybe you don't have a membership at a private golf course. Usually private golf courses have a scoring system, meaning you can enter all your scores into the computer there. But if you're not a member at a private golf course, how do you keep your score? How do you get a handicapper index and keep your factor? So how do you do that? Well, if you go to Golf Canada, so www.golfcanada.ca, or even if you Google Golf Canada Join, if you Google those three words, Golf Canada Join, it will take you right to a web page that will allow you for $49.95 for a 1-year membership. And what you can do, you'll get access to tracking to keeping your score, getting an official handicap, and it has a bunch of scoring so it'll track your greens and regulation and a bunch of other stats that you want to keep. It will track that score for you. So if you want to score and keep your scores, but yet you don't have access to a system, definitely go Google Golf Canada Join. It'll take you right to that page. In addition, for your $49.95, there's also, you have insurance that if there's damage or something has happened on the golf course to a course, to a house or to a golf cart, or if your clubs get stolen, there's labels that you're given. You get discounts off car rentals. Tons of value in that $49.95. So again, if you're looking to score, that's a great place to do that. At what age is a good time to introduce my junior to golf? Carol. Now, Carol, I did a whole video on junior golf, so you want to go back and watch that for sure. But my coach, Paul Horton, is an expert in junior golf. He's had 46 of his junior golfers have gone on to full ride NCAA scholarships. So he's the king of junior golfers. He loves them. And I said, what do you think, Paul? He said, whenever they're interested, like for me, I had my son at 2 and 3 swinging plastic clubs in the backyard. So if they're interested, awesome, and making it fun. He said there's some programs for 4 to 6 year olds, and they're more fun programs. And he said, definitely keep it fun, and it's more introduction to golf. He said that junior golfers can start absorbing instruction at the age of 7, 8, 9, 10. So at that age is when they can really start getting instruction. But my recommendation, definitely I want you to Google Canadian Junior Golf Association, and you will find tons of resources for junior golfers. Also, every single province has their own golf association. You've got BC Golf, Alberta Golf, Saskatchewan Golf, New Brunswick Golf. You've got them all. They all have it, and they all have junior programs listed under there. And again, going to Golf Canada, you can find all of those resources as well too in Canada. But definitely Canadian Junior Golf Association will help you. But hopefully those tips will help you get your junior. We need more juniors in the game. I love it. And it's great family time, isn't it? I've played 2 rounds with my husband and son, and it's such wonderful, and devices are put away. It's awesome family time. And great as extracurricular activities are canceled, and sports don't seem to be happening right now for kids. It's a wonderful way for families to get out there, be active outdoors in the fresh air. Okay, what should I look for when choosing a PGA Pro to get lessons from? Jack from Ontario. Again, great question. As you said, I love that you're looking for a pro, because again, I think the only way to get better is to take a lesson from the professionals. So what do you look for when you're looking for a PGA Pro? I talked to my coach, Paul Horton. He said, number 1, do your due diligence. He said, Google them. See if there's any reviews out there. See if there's people talking about them. You can look for awards and accolades. Have they won any awards? Have they won any? Are they noted for junior golf? Are they noted for being great with women? Are they noted for being a someone who works with a lot of competitive players? Look that up. He said that's really important. And it was funny, and because some people said to me, well, you want to pick a PGA Pro with the same personality as you. No, not at all. For me, I am more of let's call it a gregarious, extroverted personality. And my coach, Paul, is very quiet, very calm, yet we're a perfect match together. And Paul said, any good PGA Pro, he said, what they're going to be able to do is match. They'll be able to match what they do to help the golfer themselves. He said any great pro will be able to do a wonderful job of matching and helping the golfer the best way they can. And he said that what you want to do is take a test drive lesson. He said most pros will give you a test drive lesson. You'll pay for the lesson, but he said he's always said that if someone hated their lesson and didn't enjoy it, he said he didn't want to take their money. He said because it's got to be a good fit. But he said, get out there and test drive a lesson. And if the lesson doesn't go well, don't give up. Don't give up on lessons in general. He said, sometimes you just got to find that right fit. But, get out there and just, again, go try a lesson, but do your due diligence. Talk to friends, talk to other golfers in your community to say, hey, who have you gone to? Who do you like? And if you're on social media, ask some of your friends and family, hey, any pros that you'd recommend? Again, I'm a big fan of recommendations because that's really helpful. Okay, wonderful. I see Wendy's out there, wonderful. She's tagging people. And Terry, energetic, definitely energetic. All right. My next question is, what does your normal practice routine look like? David from Quebec. David, that is such a great question. So my normal practice routine, when I'm playing full golf, I get to the golf course at least 30 to 45 minutes early. When I'm at the golf course, first thing I do is I'm stretching. Remember, my first video is all about stretching. This is my favorite stretch. If you can only do one stretch, it's feet shoulder width apart, and you're doing this stretch to get that back warmed up, get you limber, and again, I think this is going to lead to more consistency. So I do a little bit of stretching and warm up. Then I start with my wedge. I do at least 5 to 10 grass brushes where I brush the grass or brush the mat before I even hit a golf ball. Once I brush the mat 5-10 times, then I hit a couple pitching wedges, couple 8-irons, couple 6-irons, couple hybrids, couple fairway woods, couple drivers. Then I head to the practice green. I take my own balls. And you remember my equipment video last week? I said, don't be using the practice balls on the green to practice your putting. Those aren't your regulation golf balls. And you want to be using a golf ball you're actually going to putt with to get your feel. So bring your own golf balls from your bag to putt with on the green. So that's what I do. I'll make some putts. I'm always moving around the hole. I'll make some long putts, some medium putts, some short putts, and then I head to the first tee. For long drive, I get to the golf course at least an hour early when I'm competing at a World Long Drive Tour event or World Championships, doing tons and tons of stretching, as much flexibility, especially with my back, as possible. And then when I'm warming up for long drive, I just hit pitching wedges, 8-iron, 6-iron, driver. So that's how I get ready for those. So huge fan. If you don't have a practice routine, get one. That is a spectacular question. So thanks, David. Next one, I have trouble reading greens consistently. What drill can you suggest to help me learn how to read greens more successfully? And this is from Adam. Well, Adam, that's a great question because green reading is so important. Because if you can't properly read a green, the speed control is huge. You've got to have the right speed control. That's going to help you, number one, get close. But if you really want to start draining putts, you ought to be able to read the greens. So I talked to my coach, Paul Horton, who is the highest ranked aim point instructor in Canada. And what is aim point? Aim point is a green reading system. So aim point is a green reading system that is all about slope. So what Paul told me is he said, when you're wanting to learn about greens, he said, number one, any uphill putt or downhill putt, there's no tilt. There's no side-to-side tilt. And if there's no side-to-side tilt, he said there's no break. So uphill and downhill putts have no break. It's only if there's side tilt. So he said, even if you haven't taken an aim point lesson, he said what you can do is you need to understand side tilt. So what he said is you want to, when you have a putt, you want to go from wherever your ball is to the hole. He said go about halfway between your ball and your hole. And he said what you're going to do is you're going to stand with one foot on either side of your putting line and feel with your feet. Feel with your feet if there's any side tilt. And he said you're going to need to give it a number. So in your head, would that be a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, a 2, a 3, a 4? You decide. And depending on how much tilt you feel with your feet, he said that's how much it's going to break. And he said faster greens are going to break more. And he said actually, when you're looking at the green and you're trying to read the green, he said that your eyes only see 10% of the tilt. And he said your feet feel 90% of it. So he said eyes are only 10%, feet are 90. So if you can get your feet to feel that side tilt, he said that's going to be a huge advantage. So if anyone is interested in aim point, it's very analytical. My engineers and my accountants freaking love aim point. You'll want to go Google, or the website is www.aimpointgolf.com, and it'll explain. There's a great video there. Adam Scott uses it. Stacey Lewis. If you ever see anyone on tour kind of with their finger doing this, and then you'll see them with their feet like this, and you see them kind of doing this, that's aim point. So again, there's a great video on there, and there's a spot that says find an instructor. So there's aim point instructors all over the world. So if you go to that website, click on find an instructor, it'll show you a map of the world, and you can click on where you are and find an aim point instructor near you. Which is fantastic. But if you don't have aim point, how do you read greens? And so what Paul said to me, he said, I asked him, should you tuck down? And he did agree. He said he thinks you can see a little bit more from being lower down. You can see more of the break than if you're just standing up. But he said you want to pretend like you're pouring a bucket of water onto the green. So if you poured a bucket of water onto the green, which way would the water flow? And that'll give you a sense as to also break. And of course you want to aim your putt at the high point or the apex of what we would call of the highest point, and know that it's going to drop or break towards the hole. And my last tip for what do you do for green reading? This is just something very small but has really helped me. I had a chance to be in a challenge with Steve Elkington, PGA major winner. He won the PGA Championships at Whistling Straight, and he's unbelievable. So we were playing this 3-hole match together, and on the first hole, I go to make this putt, and I miss it, and he goes, am side. And I said, pardon? He said, you missed it on the am side. And I kind of looked at him and he said, if it's not a flat putt, he said every hole has a pro side and an am side. He said the pro side is the high side of the cup, so up here. And he said the am side is the low side of the cup. He said pros miss on the high side, amateurs miss on the low side. Ever since then, I'm always, the second I'm at a golf hole, I'm looking for the high side of the cup, the pro side of the cup. That's just a small way that I use to help me to read greens. So hopefully those are some good tips to help you read some greens as well. And oh, Patricia Ann, I love that I'm in your head every time you think golf. I hope there's a little Lisa going, brush the grass, turn the shirt, turn the pants. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Patricia Ann. That's wonderful. Okay, my second last question here. I have questions all the time about sand. Lisa, what do I do in the sand? Now, we talked about fairway bunkers already. We've already talked about fairway bunkers and how to do that, but we have not talked about greenside bunkers. How do you hit a great sand shot out of a greenside bunker? All right, let's get schooled on this now. So again, my PGA of Canada coach, Paul Horton, I said, Paul, give me the tips. What do you do to hit a great greenside bunker shot? Number one, he said you want to make sure you do not use the leading edge of the club. Normally, you want to hit a golf shot, you're trying to use the leading edge of the club when you brush the grass. He said not in a sand shot. In a sand shot, you're actually trying to use the bounce of the club. And this is the bounce of the club, kind of this thick, meatier part on the back. That's the bounce. That's the part that you want to go through the sand. You don't want to be using the leading edge to hit it. He said that's number one. He said, number two, so when you're getting ready to hit your sand shot, he said you're getting in the bunker, okay, you get in the bunker. First thing you want to do is that you want to make sure you're not going to use that leading edge. You're thinking about that already. He said the next thing, he said, you can slightly open your face, the face of your club. It doesn't have to be crazy, but he said, go ahead, you can open it slightly. Now remember, I already discussed this earlier about when you open the face, like if you're in that thick rough, if you open the face, you can't just turn your wrists. If you turn your wrists, when you come to impact, your wrists are just going to square up and it's not going to make a hill of beans difference. So you've got to open the face, then re-grip the club. So he said that's number one, really make sure you do that. Number two, he said one of the biggest mistakes most golfers make when they're in the sand, he said they open their stance way too much. He is a fan of being more square, maybe slightly open, but he said you want to be more square, maybe slightly open, but he thinks most golfers open their stance way too much, okay? So you're in the sand, he said ball position, you want the ball position, he said, to be off the instep of your lead foot, so that's driver position. Remember I taught you how to do that? We're going to go eyeball the ball in the middle of the feet and simply move the back foot. So he wants to see that that ball off the instep of the lead foot. You want to have a square stance, maybe slightly open. You can slightly open the club. And again, you're not wanting to hit using the lead edge. You want to use the bounce. So he said you want to make sure you hit the sand 2 inches behind the ball. If you hit it right at the ball, buh-bye. That ball is gone. You want to brush the sand. So again, there's a great swing thought that you're hitting it off a $5 bill. So you want to, if you think about it, the ball's in the middle. If you think about the ball in the middle and the $5 bill is kind of around it, you want to enter the sand 2 inches behind the ball. So it's kind of at the beginning of the $5 bill. You're going to brush it through and you want to have the spot where you hit the sand should be the width of a $5 bill and the ball would just be in the middle. It's going to pop out with the sand, fly out with the sand. He said the next thing he sees, people do not take a big enough swing in the bunker. Again, so if you had a 30-yard shot to the green and you want to think about how big that swing should be, your swing should be way bigger than if you were making a 30-yard shot from the grass, from the fairway onto the green than you were from the sand. Why? The sand is way more thick, way denser than the grass is. So you have to make a bigger stroke. And that is really hard for people to think when they're only 10, 15 yards away from the pin to make that big stroke, to make that big swing. So it's hard to get that in there. So he said you have to make a bigger swing. And then the next thing he said he sees all the time with golfers as they're in the sand trap, they'll make a big backswing and then stab. They stab it into they try to punch it out. And he said that's a terrible idea. You do not want to punch it out. He said you want to get through it. You want to be aggressive. He said a great swing thought, you want to spank the sand. You want to slap the spank the sand, and you want to be hitting that with the bounce of your club. So bigger swing, spank the sand, get that $5 bill out. You're trying to get a $5 bill out. You're not trying to get a ball out. You're trying to get a $5 bill out. And again, you got to swing through it. As soon as you stop that follow through in the swing, the ball's going to stay in the sand and the sand's going to fly out of the bunker. So bigger swing, be more aggressive, come through it. And again, all great tips to get out of the bunker there, okay? So hopefully that's going to be helpful. And our last question here. Hi, Lisa. I wanted to know more about the beginning of your career. Any cool stories you can share with us? Lauren from Toronto, Ontario. Well, Lauren, I have one great story I can share with you. So I won my first national title, and I was just starting to compete in long drive, and it was my husband's birthday, and I saved up my pennies to take him to Pebble Beach. And it took me 13 months to slowly squirrel away enough money so I could afford to take him to Pebble Beach. But I shouldn't have done it, because now my husband knows how much I can squirrel if I actually put my mind to it. So we get out there, and we're like two kids in a candy store, and we go out to Pebble Beach, and we're so excited, and we get into the pro shop, and we said, oh, hi, we have a tea time for 12:30. And they said, 12:30, Mr. and Mrs. Blueswick? And we said, yes. And they said, you're playing with the Smith twosome. We said, oh, great, thanks so much. So, and they said, you're playing behind Mr. Lester, Mr. Fredrickson, Mr. Palmer. We're like, oh, great, thanks for letting us know. So we walk out of the pro shop, and we go to the first tee box, and who's standing at the first tee box but Mr. Palmer, Arnold Palmer. And like our minds were blown. And my husband's like, that is so cool. Like, that's Arnold Palmer. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to go say hi. And he's like, no, Lisa, we are not going to go say hi to Arnold Palmer. I'm like, oh, yeah, we are. And I'm like, drink. Hi, Mr. Palmer. My name's Lisa. I'm from Canada. And he was so wonderful. No wonder there was Arnie's Army. No wonder he was the king. He was so amazing and kind. He chatted with us. And you would have seen in one of my earlier versions, I had the Masters Week. I showed you our picture of Mr. Oh, hold on. I'll grab it. It's right here. Oh. So then we took this picture. Hold on. We took this picture on the first tee box at Pebble Beach. It was so unbelievable. And then he wished my husband a happy birthday. It was amazing. And then Mr. Palmer goes off to hit his shot, and he pulls out his driver and he rips it down the pipe, and we're all like, oh. And he waves to us, you know, like it's the U.S. Open, but again, it's not the U.S. Open. It's like a Wednesday afternoon. He was so amazing and just amazing. And so Mr. Palmer has since passed away, but that is a memory that I will never forget. And it was our turn then to go to tee it up. So all of a sudden, I get introduced to my two playing partners, the Smith twosome. So the Smith twosome comes over, two guys, and they go to meet me, and they're told that I'm their playing partner, and I get the look. What's the look? The look looks something like this. Oh. And that look is like, I got paired with the chick. And you could just tell, they're playing their bucket list course, and they got paired with a chick. They look so disappointed. So the one guy reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out a tee, and he kind of spins it to kind of toss the tee to see who it lands on, who should tee off first. And it lands on me, and he kind of rolls his eyes. So I go into my bag, I pull out my club, and I step up to the blue tees, one up from the tips. And they kind of do a double take, but they don't say anything. Then the starter comes over. Starter's a little long in the tooth. He's like 110. And he's like, excuse me, little missy, the ladies' tees are up there. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I said, but my handicap would indicate I should play from the blues. No. All ladies need to play from the ladies' tees. And I'm like, I didn't just pay $500 US at like a 67-cent Canadian dollar to play from 5,200 yards. So I'm like, no, you know what? I'm good. Thanks so much. Now you can see he was irritated, but he let it go. Now the first hole at Pebble Beach is a dogleg right. So I didn't want to hit it through the corner. So I pulled out my fairway wood, and Mr. Palmer and his group were hitting their approach shots, so I'm waiting. And the starter says to me, play away. And I looked at him and I said, well, actually, they're still in my range. And he looked at me, and he looked at my fairway wood, and the only thing he says to me, he said, I don't think so. And then like steam coming out of his ears. And he said, we take the pace of play very seriously here at Pebble Beach, and after 2 warnings, you can be removed from the course, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, after all this hullabaloo, finally the corner clears, and now it's my turn to hit. Now, for all you long hitters out there, you know what I'm talking about. You wait because you don't want to hit into the group ahead of you. So now what's happened? Oh, right, another group has come. So now I'm standing over my shot, and I have one swing thought, and that swing thought is, please don't cold top it off the tee. Please don't cold top it off the tee, which, by the way, is not a solid swing thought. So I took a deep breath, big swing, and I ripped it down the pipe, and I looked back at the starter, and the only thing he says to me, don't hit into Mr. Palmer. Not good shot, not anything else. And there's no such thing as the ladies' tees. They're called the forward tees. And I know some guys who should be moving on up. But I also know some girls who should be moving it back a couple tee boxes, all right? Well, hopefully you had fun. I hope you've enjoyed all 17 of these Golf Town virtual golf clinics. We've been at home, and we wanted to help you learn and stay fresh and get excited about golf, so I hope you've enjoyed them. Thank you for all of your wonderful feedback. If you've missed any of the videos, you can go back to the Golf Town Facebook page. If you actually go to the Golf Town Facebook page and click the video tab, you will see Lisa Longball's virtual golf clinics. All 17 will be right there. They'll be, so you won't have to scroll back all the way through the timeline. So go to the Golf Town Facebook page and click videos, and you'll find all the videos right there for all of them. I have so enjoyed being here, and I've taken time I try to respond to every single person who's ever commented on any of the videos. So thank you for your wonderful feedback. I want to share with you a really cool contest that Golf Town's doing right now. It's called Now We Golf. So it's this awesome contest. They've got tons of prizes. If you've been on their social media, you've probably seen a ton of pictures. And it's so cool. People from all across Canada are just sending their pictures. They're sharing. It's our time to be excited that we're out golfing again. We're out there with joining family and friends, and one of the only sports that are allowed right now. So it's so cool. So if you are on social media, the way to get into this contest, you want to follow Golf Town. So on Twitter and Instagram, you go at Golf Town. You got to follow Golf Town. Then you need to mention them. So make sure you put at Golf Town in your post. And then you're going to use the hashtag. You put hashtag, no spaces, Now We Golf. Now We Golf. So put Now We Golf and post a picture, post a video, and make some sort of comment about what you think and how you're feeling about being back golfing. And if you scroll through these, I just keep smiling as I'm looking at all of these wonderful posts, and you can win some great prizes. So again, make sure you follow at Golf Town, and make sure you mention them, and then hashtag Now We Golf, and post. This weekend, I'm looking for some great pictures, so make sure you post. And if you want to stay connected with me or have any questions, please let me know. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Lisa Longball. On Facebook, I have a page, Lisa Longball, and my website is lisalongball.com, and I've had so many kind people who are talking about my golf schools that I run in Phoenix and in Orlando and in Calgary and Toronto. So if you have any questions, please, anytime, reach out to me, and make sure you also follow Golf Town, again, on their Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for letting me be part of your life for the last 2 months. I'm going to miss you guys. So all the best, and make sure to check out these videos, and hashtag Now We Golf. Woo! Have a great weekend, everybody.